Daily. But let's also take a look at what's making headlines on the front page of the Daily Nation. And the front page there says, all eyes on MPs over new taxes. It is D-Day today as the National Assembly's Finance Committee last evening heeded Kenyans' calls and recommended the removal of some punitive taxes. Now, focus will be on the House today as the bill is tabled for a second reading. But even as the team presents its report, MPs still have to vote for the changes to take effect. So will they listen to the people? That's what Kenyans are waiting to see. And a look at the front page of the Standard newspaper shows widows cry, too many guns in the wrong hands. And a widow is suing the state for failing to regulate guns, claiming her husband, who is a nurse, would still be alive if the government tightened gun control rules in the country. We'll be giving you a look at that report as well. But a look at the Star this morning also says, our focus is on politics. The Star newspaper says 2027 battle. MPs lay siege to governors. Now, Ruto is on record telling MPs to focus on serving constituents first and not themselves. But we have a list of MPs here seeking to run for gubernatorial positions, and the report there continues on pages 4 and 5 of the Star. We'll be taking a look at that as well. In studio with us as we analyze what's making headlines on the dailies, we have leadership and governance expert Dr. Isaac Hassan, as well as former NAT Secretary General and former nominated MP Wilson Sosion. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us here on New Dawn. Dr. Hassan, let me begin with you and what's making headlines on the front page of the People Daily. Relief as MPs drop taxes in finance bill. How do you receive this headline today?
Michelle, thank you very much. First and foremost, I think it's a good news if we go by the headline. We know very well public participation was conducted by members of parliament, chaired by Honorable Imani Kuria. And definitely the public has spoken. And if they have listened to the public, which was a public outcome, then it is indeed a very, very great news if that has been proposed to be dropped. Because in essence,
all right. I understand we have a problem with your microphone, Dr. Hassan. I apologize for that. We'll be coming back to you shortly. Sosion, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. The People Daily runs with that headline: relief as MPs drop taxes in finance bill. VAT on bread, motor vehicle tax, 25%, proposed excise duty on cooking oil, all dropped. What do you make of this?
Yes, I don't think there's anything new other than what we have been discussing, me and you, in this show. But the finance bill is going through a process. And the data on public participation has been analyzed by the Finance Committee of the National Assembly. And indicatively, a lot of considerations have been considered, including removal of taxes on bread, removal of taxes on cars, removal of taxes on edible oils and eco-levy. I think these are reasonable enough because the whole process is democratic. The initial proposal, the finance bill as it was proposed by Treasury, and ordinarily it must be tabled in Parliament. And it was tabled by the Cabinet Secretary for Finance after reading the budget statement last week. And as per the law, it must be dispensed of within 7 days. And I am fully aware that the Finance Committee has been analyzing the views of the public with the view of accommodating and moderating the bill. And it's good news what we are hearing. But I think the whole truth and the whole disposition of the bill will be known once the report is tabled in the afternoon by the chair.
Absolutely. And
right now it's preemptive. What you're getting is preemptive, yes. It's either confirmed or unconfirmed, but One thing I know is that Parliament is very sensitive to the views of the public.
Okay, and of course now
and it has
we'll
to be
taking a look
because
and discussing this in a bit more detail at the top of the hour.
Parliament is the voice of the people, and therefore I know in the committee of the whole house of the house, when clause by clause of the bill will be considered, even members of Parliament are free to file amendments to the bill, debate it on the floor, and put it to vote. So Parliament will be putting to vote clause by clause, and to save the agony of Parliament, the committee has done a lot of good work by considering the views of the public, and it has considered in the report. So if Parliament adopts the recommendation of the Finance Committee, then is going to see moderation of the Finance Act. And we'll have a Finance Act that is fully
We will
treated.
be delving into a bit more detail at the top of the hour. So, Dr. Hassan, very briefly on this, because, you know, even in the Daily Nation, we have a question, because even as several punitive taxes are said to have been dropped from some of the proposals, there's still that question as to whether MPs will vote for the changes to take effect. And that's why all eyes on Parliament today. What are your expectations as we preempt?
Thank you very much once again. First and foremost, before I go very far, I just want to say one thing that Honorable Sosion has mentioned. Parliament has never been known to represent the people as they are expected to do so. And we have proof of that in the 2023 Financial Act. And therefore, if this time around they play their game very well, in essence, to the extent that their role, which they knew was supposed to be representing their constituents, then we will be so happy. Now, having seen the report on the newspapers and being on the headline today, is a good indication that perhaps the public participation process that Committee of Finance has facilitated for the last 2 weeks or so has been, you know, put sense into it and accepted that at least public for once can be listened to. Because you remember 2023, we had the same financial bill with quite contentious issues that caused public outcry. And in the bottom of all the things that the public outcry is caused by is the fact that any taxation that interferes with the basic life of common mwananchi should be addressed in Parliament, and it should not go through. And that's why we have the representation, who are the members of Parliament, who are in essence supposed to be there to represent the electorate. But again, something worries me. The committee has made significant proposals, if those proposals are indeed true, because sometimes you may find something else in the floor of the House. But today they have been summoned by their respective party leaders. And now the essence of having parliamentarians have their decision at will be compromised. The fact that they will going to be given directions on what they are expected to do in that floor of the House, which is contrary to actually how parliamentarians' behavior should be, because there must be a clear demarcation between the executive and the legislatures in order for us to have a balanced deal in any legislation or any representation that is supposed to be fulfilled within the government and within the judiciary.
Right, emergent, but this is a conversation we'll be having at the top of the hour in a lot more detail, so I'd like to move on from it. But we're asking you this morning, what your thoughts are as parliamentarians and the Finance Committee briefs President William Ruto on the finance bill changes or the proposals contained in the finance bill today. Kenyans have mobilized themselves on social media under the hashtag Reject Finance Bill to raise awareness and marshal support to ensure they show up in large numbers for what has been dubbed as Occupy Parliament ahead of the tabling of this bill today. What do you make of the fact that the Parliamentary Committee has made the decision to drop up some of the contested proposals ahead of the tabling of the report this afternoon. Do speak to us. The hashtag is New Dawn. You can also speak to us on X at K24 TV. Now, gentlemen, let's go back to the front page of the People Daily. And, of course, at the top page there, Eid al-Adha, as Muslim faithful yesterday marked Eid al-Adha celebrations and joining their global counterparts to celebrate the holy day. Dr. Hassan, and belated Eid Mubarak to you. How was the celebration for you?
Eid Mubarak to you too. I think we had a great celebration. Kenyans and Muslims across the world celebrated. And the essence of this Eid is to conduct sacrifice for and support people who are in need. So it is the Eid that we Muslims extend our hands to all the poor people around our neighbors, regardless of their religious affiliation. Any poor person who is in your neighborhood, who is living with you, it is mandatory for Muslims to extend their help or support to these particular days. And you see, it is something that again unifies all the Muslims across the world, because you remember the Hajj is the month that people conduct Hajj, and people have gone to Mecca to do their ritual obligation for pilgrimage, as well as other Muslims across the world celebrating the Eid al-Adha. Therefore, I think it was a great one. Quite a number of leaders across the country have also participated, regardless of their religious background. And they participated and celebrated with all the Muslims. I saw the governor of Nairobi donating 500 goats to Muslims so that they distribute to not only Muslims, but all people, the poor ones who are in need. And that has been definitely done. Therefore, I think the only thing I'll say is that I wish, I see our senior council has also arrived. I wish all Kenyans Eid Mubarak. I wish my constituent, Mandera West, people of Mandera West, Eid Mubarak, and the people of Mandera and northern region, coastal regions, and all the areas where Muslims live, as well as all the Kenyans, Eid Mubarak.
All right, all right. And of course, you know, you did call us for the Mbuzi, so we hope next year you factor us in, because we sit here every week, Dr. Hassan. But let's move on, gentlemen, to page 7 of the People Daily. And joining us in studio now is former LSK President Eric Theory. Eric, a very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us on New Dawn. Very timely, because the story on page 7 of your paper, and it's at the top page of the People Daily, Ruto now warns over attacks on judges. And the story continues on page 7 of the paper, as of course the president condemns the shooting of City Court Magistrate Monica Kivuti, who unfortunately succumbed to gunshot wounds in the line of duty. Eric, a lot has come out of this event, a very difficult situation for the judiciary to deal with. What has this incident highlighted with regard to security of magistrates and those dispensing justice?
All right. Thank you, Michelle, for having me here. First of all, I think it will be in order if I begin by passing my message of condolences to the family, to the entire judiciary, and to the friends of the late Honorable Monica Kivuti. It is, as you have said, a very tragic event. Tragic in the sense that one should not lose life as they dispense their services and offer their services to this country. So that's the first one. The second is the fact that the judiciary as an institution is at the heart of settling disputes. And most of these disputes are emotional. And when they dispense justice, so to speak, there are always two parties. There's one who feels like they have won, and there's another one who feels like they have been aggrieved by every decision that the court would make. And so it places them at an obvious risk in terms of their safety and security. And that is the reason why every courtroom across the world has serious security protocols. People are checked. And I think that there's a fault on our part. And when you look at the structure that the magistrates were operating from, and some of the structures that the magistrates are operating from, you can actually tell that the country has failed them. The country has failed the judiciary leadership. In one or two instances may also have failed their magistrates because they shouldn't have allowed them to operate in those kind of structures where it is literally impossible to guarantee their safety. You know, the presence of a uniformed police officer in court in itself, yes, can be a deterrence, but they need to do more. And so I think that besides the condemnations that have come out, I hope that we will see some much more action coming from Parliament in terms of allocation of resources to the judiciary, because this is something that we've always spoken about year in, year out, in every budget cycle, that the judiciary is not being given enough funds to be able to set it up as an institution that then can be able to offer justice.
And so, Sion, your thoughts on this? Because President William Ruto, even during the campaign period, made many promises to the judiciary, and among them was prioritizing funding for the independent operations of the judiciary, and this meant infrastructure, this meant security. And this incident, very unfortunate, of course, but has highlighted several gaps that should have been filled through the president's promise, so to speak. What do you mean by this?
The Judicial Service Commission is completely an independent arm of government that is fully facilitated by the state, and the commitment of the president to finance the judiciary, I think, gradually has been fulfilled over the budget. We may not, the exchequer may not be able to finance all expected commitments, not only in the judiciary but in the entire government. But I think that commitment that the president made to ensure that the judiciary is independent and working, and regular consultation with the judiciary and prompt appointment of judges as proposed by the Judicial Service Commission has been done. The incident at Makadara Law Courts invites all of us to think properly about the safety of the judges and the safety of the lawyers who are presenting various clients in the court, the safety of the court users, ordinary citizens, and looking at this particular case of a police officer who walks to the courtroom armed and not on duty in that particular court is a serious security lapse. And this brings to question on the use of guns by the police officers. Where should they, like the court presidents, who really should walk to the courtrooms and court vicinity with guns? It should be an officer who is assigned. Officers were assigned to be in those particular
I'll give you a chance to finish that, but maybe just to ask Theuri, because there are those who claim that the incident happened because of security lapses caused by underfunding. Is that true?
Yeah, that is really, when you look at everything in totality, that actually is the main cause of the problem. So I would want to agree with Sosion to a certain extent that yes, the funding to the judiciary has increased. But if you are to look at the increase in terms of the various arms of government, in terms of funding to the executive and to parliament, it is so marginal that you cannot call it an increase. And I think that that should be the thing, that we should actually now say that yes, we appreciate the efforts that have been done, but more funds ought to be given to the judiciary commensurate to the services that the judiciary offers this country.
Sosion. I mean, that being
yes,
said.
no doubt, no debate about it, because You know, dispensation of justice is what brings peace, what brings order in the country. And that is why you see on day one, the president gazetted the appointment of the judges who had been, Uhuru Kenyatta had refused to appoint them to office, because the executive has no business interfering with the judiciary. And he has gone a step further to upscale the funding. And I don't think we should stop there. The Law Society and all the court users and all of us, I'm a very good court user, and delaying delivery of cases, of judgments, actually affects rights of citizens. I agree. We should continue gradually elevating allocations to the judiciary. Right. And I think the judiciary, we've seen the Chief Justice trying to open up many courts and expand the operations of the judiciary. No doubt, more funding is required. But the item on the table is security. That one does not require much of funding. Like a decision of a police officer who is not on duty in a court and has interest in a judgment being delivered and is permitted to sit in the court presence with a gun. We have seen what it does. That means then we don't allow the courtrooms to be open public places where people walk in and walk out.
All right.
Whereas the court should be open, all those interested in walking into the courtroom should be security vetted, including even having gun testing.
Yes. I'm glad you bring that up, because let's take a look at the front page.
We secure the judges,
the Standard newspaper.
We secure the judges and secure all the court users, including our lawyers.
Right. Let's take a look at the front page of the Standard newspaper then, because it ties in with the discussion. The headline there says, widows cry, too many guns in wrong hands. And so we have pictures here of, among others, Monica Kivuti, who was killed by what has been termed here as an angry OCS. But the number here shows 550 people have been killed due to misuse of firearms, with 4,000 cases of misuse reported, according to this report. We have another Faustin Madilo here, who was shot by a psychiatry patient. And there's been many questions then as to gun control rules in the country and what the government has done in terms of policy and implementation as well. Dr. Hassan, is this a concern for you?
Indeed, it is a concern. First, allow me to send also my condolences to our magistrate who has been killed in a cold blood. It is important that we must recognize and appreciate that there was an overlap in terms of security in the magistrates' courts. And we know we take quite a number of things for granted, reason being we assume that Kenyans are very peaceful, but it is indeed time for us to recognize that we have quite a number of challenges in addressing issues related to security, and much of it should be that we must secure our courts. That is an important thing that we must put into account. Number two, I think we should also look at the coin from the other side. How can someone in a normal mental status pick a gun and kill someone? So there is a challenge that we need to address, and it is indeed something that the government of Kenya must address, because these are things that are being addressed in all the countries. In reference to use of guns, police officers looks like they have mental challenges. Quite a number of them are battling with depressions. They are battling with different various mental conditions. And we must not just sit back and say that police officers are able to deliver their duties and they are not supposed to have such challenges in terms of their mental well-being, and therefore they are just left alone to handle their guns. So this also extends towards guns, people who have been armed or people who are handling guns. And I think one thing that I want the government to look into is that anyone who is handling a lethal weapon, including guns, should go through annual mental assessment process, so that we know indeed whoever commits crime commits being a criminal. But sometimes you may not be a criminal. Sometimes what happens in our heads are contrary to what we do. And therefore, I tend to think that it is time for us to review issues of gun handling as well as the mental stability of people who handle lethal weapons, so that we are able to assess them and make sure that if they are not able to handle the gun, they should be given to dispense it forthwith. And therefore, finally, what I will suggest is that 3 things must be handy. 1, we must secure our judicial operation areas, which is supposed to be a place which is protected. Ideally, as Senior Counsel has put it, this is a place where the definite decisions are made. From one side, you could be the winner or you could be the loser. And the losing and winning is not like election. It is something that either takes you to prisons or lifetime prisons, or it frees you. And therefore, on those decisions that a magistrate or a judge makes, he needs protection, number 1. Number 2, we need to assess both our judicial officers and our police officers, their mental status on annual basis, in order for us to know where their mental well-being is for that particular year.
All right.
Thirdly,
let's take a break. We must take a break.
Proper financial support must be given to the judicial system, not political statements.
All right.
I totally agree that significant progress has been made, but when you see the balance between other arms of the government, in essence, we must give out a very significant balance, both the judiciary, the legislature, and
for the
the
3 arms of government.
Yes,
all right, let's take a break on New Dawn, and we're looking at what's making headlines on the dailies. Let's start up with a look at the Star. The front page there says 2027 battlers, MPs lay siege to governors. Gubernatorial positions there and races are shaping up, with several MPs now eyeing the gubernatorial jobs 3 years to the polls. We take a look at that report. Let's take a break here on New Dawn. When we come back, the big conversation is Kenyans eye Parliament today for the tabling of the Finance Bill 2024, with planned protests outside Parliament over the controversial Finance Bill, with Kenyans asking for it to be amended. What are your thoughts and expectations on that tabling of the bill today? The hashtag is New Dawn. Do speak to us. We'll be sampling your thoughts and comments on the other side.